Tara Brown and the Swinging London Colour Revolution by Vic Jannam, Chapter 4.2. With the international art jet set moving over to New York around 1960, and Miguel being a former resident, Mummy Darling had every reason to regularly visit the place. She asked me if I was interested in joining them, and while I was, I also cherished the opportunity of having Rue de l'Université for myself for a couple of days. To keep all parties happy, I did give in a few times, and so I got to know the Big Apple that winter over the course of 3 short but highly entertaining visits. I had been to the city before with Mummy Darling, but much younger and never away from her side. We used to stay at the Drake Hotel on Park Avenue, and while Mummy and Miguel invited the local art scene over for a naked lunch, I would saunter the perfect grid of Manhattan, so different from the European inner cities I knew. The city of New York had everything a young man could wish for. Those amazing skyscrapers, big cars, shops, music, clubs and bars, and lots of people of all color and creed, something which was still mostly unheard of in Europe at the time. I loved the free jazz and doo-wop that could be found in Harlem in the Bowery, where I was often one of the few white people, and being so young was met with surprise more than anger for daring to intrude. I also loved the chic restaurants my mother sometimes took me to, and where she quickly established herself as the leading light of a coterie of artists and writers who loved her wit and her wallet. Some of them I recognized. They had apparently followed us from Paris across the pond. Others were the local brand of that international scene of people who tried to postpone getting a decent job for as long as they could through selling either their art, their soul, or both. One cold and rainy day in early 1961, I found myself in Harlem, looking for a place to hang out for a few hours before the club I was going to would open. I was not quite 16 yet and would often ride the subway, not because I couldn't spare the taxi fare, but because I enjoyed studying the faces on the train and how they changed when going from South Manhattan all the way to Uptown. I had emerged at 125th Street with Lexington Avenue and was planning to walk westwards when a young man caught my eye. He was standing on the corner under a shop overhang, and his gaze was so intense that I could not help noticing the heat his brain was radiating. Being a quick thinker myself, I always recognized intelligence, and this cat certainly had some. He was dressed in a black leather jacket and dark blue jeans, and his thick curly hair was cropped up the rock and roll way. Yet he didn't look like a rocker. His posture, his cool were jazzy. I walked up to him and asked, "Enjoying the scenery?" He gave me the quickest of glances, and turning his eyes back to what he was looking at, returned in a rather warm voice, "What's a kid like you doing uptown?" "Going to a club. But since I'm a bit early, I was looking for a place to have a coffee." "Lots of places around here." "I'm sure of that," I said. He chuckled. "If you buy me a coffee, I'll show you a joint where you can kill off a couple of hours." "Fair enough." Our eyes crossed, and I stuck out my hand. Tara Brown." "Tara?" he said without taking his hands out of his pockets. "Isn't that a girl's name?" "It is in many parts of the world. According to my mother, it's also considered a boy's name in Ireland. She's Irish." "What else did your Irish mother give you?" It was hard not to feel attracted to his directness. "She showed me the world," I said. "She's always on the run, and so far I've been following her around. She let me meet lots of interesting people." "And so you came up right here at Lexington 125, and you saw this type standing round and you thought, let's bother him." "I'm not afraid of bothering people." That got him laughing. "Lou," he said. "The name is Lou." So what are you doing here, Lou? Don't turn your head immediately, but see those people on the opposite corner? I pretended to admire a roof and then cast my eyes down. The shabby ones. All shivering, suffering, hoping, longing. They're waiting for their man. Their man? The dealer. They're junkies, waiting to score some dope. Do you know what makes a junkie? It's a word for people who do heroin, no? It's a word for the poor souls who fuck up their lives for horse, who have no interest other than getting high, and who are willing to steal for that, as they are incapable of keeping a job. If you're a jazz cat, you may do horse to improve your music making. You try to balance the bad with the good. But when you're a junkie, there's only bad. They knowingly nullify their lives. Do you want to be like them? Are you crazy? I write about them. I'm a songwriter. Cool. Do you sing as well? Whenever I get a band together. By now he had begun walking, and I hastened to move myself by his side, which was not easy as the sidewalk was full of shoppers and strollers, despite the lousy weather. Our conversation stalled until Lou suddenly cut to his left and entered a dark, low-ceilinged cafe where he took up a seat in the far corner away from the window. Do you drink? He asked. I do. Smoke as well? Lou presented a pack of Lucky Strikes and called out to the bar lady, Maria, two carajillos, please. We lit up and he explained, This is an old place, from when this was still Spanish Harlem. Now it's mostly black people living here, but Maria is never gone. In the Spanish tradition, they serve their coffee with a shot of rum, or brandy if you prefer the real thing. Keeps you warm on a January day. With his hands clutched around the warming drink, Lou got talkative. He told me about music, what he liked and what not. He also spoke about writing songs, how awfully stupid most popular lyrics were, and that it was his mission to pump some reality into them. I want to tell people what life is really all about. I believe good songs can be like literature. Tell it straight and simple. Do you read? Whenever I find the time, which is not always. You should. Find the time. Lou fastened his jacket. Gotta go. Nice meeting you, Tara. Take good care of yourself. Good luck with your music. 1961 turned out to be a rough year in French politics. So rough, in fact, that even I and my circle got to hear of it. It was in our face all the time, and all around us it became a favorite conversation topic. So we sort of joined in. It had to do with Algeria, which had been fighting a guerrilla war for independence for many years now, and President de Gaulle's willingness to accept the inevitable. Most people understood it had become impossible to maintain colonies after the war. There was no money, and United States wouldn't have it. They're taking them all over, somebody said in one of those endless discussions people loved having. America is freeing the world, yes, but wait 10 years and they run them all economically. You can't really say that, objected his pal. So far it hasn't happened. Away from empty conversation, there was this group of grumpy old colonels and other people with reason to live in the past, who had created an armed wing that was all of a sudden derailing everyday life with bomb attacks on the public and a failed attempt on de Gaulle. In 1962, there would be a much more serious one. It was easy enough to condemn the OAS, as they called themselves, since people were dying because of these clowns. 22 deceased in a train explosion was considered an awful lot in 1961. In fact, in Algeria, many more people were dying from attacks by counter-guerrillas. The existentialists, seeing their negativity come true, once again engaged in endless conversation. To their credit, Some of them understood that in such adverse circumstances a bit more was needed than just an opinion. They wanted to know what the Algerian population of Paris had to say about the terror campaign and began looking them up. In those days, many Algerians lived in terrible circumstances in bidonville, just outside of the city, an architectural style not fully apt for the Parisian climate. They began coming together, and when the prefecture slapped them with a curfew expressly for Algerian Muslims and other Muslims, they rose up en masse and organized a march of many thousands, whole families together, on the boulevard between Opéra and République, where they were met with brute police violence. Nobody knew exactly, but there had been many more than the 2 deaths the police claimed they had caused. There were stories of people getting shot at, and there was the horror of the drowning people in the Seine, washing up near Pont Saint-Michel, and according to rumor at other bridges as well. That made for a lot of dead people. I wasn't faced by people I didn't know, as a rule, but in this case it was hard not to feel sympathy. It was ugly and unnecessary. It was simply racist, and it was done so openly that too many people had witnessed some of it not to be touched by the immensity of the assault. It brought de Gaulle into discredit, so he quickly had to condemn his police chief. Officially, not much had happened. Police kept up their lies and the newspapers wouldn't write anything else. But there was a strong rumor going around town, an angry rumor. Time to end the goddamn war. I told Sir John about it that New Year's Eve at Lugala. He had never visited us in Paris, but would still attend our end-of-year brawls in Ireland. Yes, we've noticed, he said. I presume it's easier to let go of possessions at the other end of the globe. Algeria feels like an extension of France. In which case they had better start treating its people as Frenchmen, I stated. Sir John laughed. You are right there, young Irishman. Unfortunately, empires tend to die only slowly. By the way, if you see a chance, you might want to move to London. Things are heating up down there, and we need our men on the scene. His words were music to my ears. 2 years after our original chat on Mount Fancy, I was more than ready for a new adventure. I would soon be 17, and while this was considered young and unripe by common standards, to me it felt as if time were slipping through my fingers. Every day spent in Paris, where I was just a hip kid having fun, seemed like a day lost. I knew I was never going to be anything more there, if only because their chauvinism wouldn't allow the French to be influenced by some Irish boy. I was also getting more than fed up with the spectacle of Mummy and Miguel drawing out their impossible marriage to the point where they were ready to kill each other. If it came to that, I wouldn't want to be witness to the fact. Looking at the bright side, you might say I had been prepping myself. Another calendar year, which always felt like a momentous swing when being celebrated with my mother's circle at Lugala, was the right moment to set some wheels in motion.